Well, we have made our way to the next campsite. We're in Houghton right now, which is the home of Michigan Tech. And we parked our camper and we're gonna get a bite to eat. We found this great little spot. It's a very nice little restaurant. Fred and I both got the baked whitefish today. I got the wild rice and the vegetables, almondine. So this Keweenaw Brewing Company, this is the local beer that they advertise here in the Upper Peninsula. It was a $90 lunch for the two of us, but that's before tip, but it was still very good. It was probably the best whitefish I've had. I love camping and traveling like this, going to all these different spots. Every place is so different. It is pretty amazing to see our country this way. This is our third cross-country trip. Okay, so we had to come check this out because I've heard so much about it on the internet. It's called the Jam Lady. Apparently these people have been in business for 200 years selling this jam. Yes, 200 years. And it's in the back of someone's house and it's on the honor system. And you apparently can buy this stuff online. And we are in Copper Harbor right now. All right, so just a whole bunch of homemade jams. Eagle River Museum, Keweenaw County Historical Society. Open June through October. In November 1919, she struck a reef off of Eagle River, which is right around here, and was lost in a blinding snowstorm. It sank 3 days later, but the pilot house broke off and came floating onto shore. So this is the pilot house. And right here, you can see Lake Superior over there. This is a beautiful spot. Look at this. This is the Eagle River. Boy, that's pretty. That's worth a stop. Just right here to look at this. The trees are beautiful. The rocks are beautiful. Everything is so pretty. You know, when you're planning these trips and you're planning them from across the country, sometimes you make mistakes, and I think that I may have made a mistake that let me help you possibly not to make. So we drove through the town of Copper Harbor. We've just barely touched it and it looks amazing, so we can't wait to show you around. But right now we went to the Fort Wilkins Historic State Park and we're going to tour this, but there's a campground right here. Yeah, we should have got that. So we're gonna take a quick zip through that campground when we're finished touring this historic area. And I'll let you know, but I think this is probably gonna be the better place to stay. Where we're staying at that Hancock recreational area, it's about an hour away from here. Well, I did not know this, but because of all the copper that was here, the United States took control of the Upper Peninsula in 1842. So this is this Fort Wilkins trading post.
Very similar to what happened in South Dakota in the early 1870s. You know, a treaty gave the Sioux the Badlands out there.
And the Black Hills. Yeah.
And with the discovery of gold, the government broke their contract, their treaty.
Right.
And then the Indians retaliated with the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
Custer's last stand.
Yeah. Where the little idiot general, former general, Custer, got his command wiped out.
So they have a nice little gift store here. So, had to try the Mackinac Island salted caramel fudge ice cream. It's pretty tasty. What kind of ice cream did you get?
Banana cream pie.
Leave the present behind as you enter the world of 1870. picture of Fort Wilkins. As you walk out these little buildings, look at the view.
In 1843, the Michigan Copper Rush set a boom and bust pattern that was later associated with the American West. Fort Wilkins was built in response to the Copper Rush.
So each little building is like this little interpretive story. You just walk through and look at everything. Cast iron wood stove. This is how they washed their clothes. They carried water from the lake for drinking, washing, and cooking. Here's a bedroom from the 1840s. This is how they would cook. Pretty cool. This place is really neat. There's a lot of buildings to look at. This is called the bakehouse. 2 hours before baking, the post baker built a fire directly in the oven chamber to bake the bread. Look at this oven. And then it goes pretty deep back in there. It is.
Blacksmith.
Blacksmith?
Sweetheart, more beaver activity.
Oh yeah, look at that. Guess those little beavers come right up from there. This is really an historic fort. I mean, this is the actual location, and these are the actual buildings. This is an amazing place. Look at all these buildings that we have to explore. Could you imagine living here in the 1840s? This very small community. Here are two smaller buildings in the back. Powder magazine. Oh, maybe this is where they stored gunpowder or something. Oh yes, look at this. Wow. 50 caliber cartridges, gunpowder. Wow. Colt's new model Army 44-100. Oh, there's little cells, prison cells. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that. This padlock on here. So, you know, they keep the gunpowder and all of that away from everyone else, but the guardhouse and the jail is right next to all the gunpowder. Some of this is behind glass, I guess because it's just so valuable, but this was the officers' quarters kitchen. This was the officers' quarters dining room. And this was the officers' quarters parlor. And there's something upstairs. Okay, so upstairs is the officers' quarters bedroom. Here's a couple of more buildings off to themselves. Oh, and it says Settler's Store. It's a general assortment of goods, including all the necessary items a traveler might need. Oh, look at this. Soda cracker, a barrel full of potatoes, molasses, cider vinegar, these hams that are curing, candles, baskets. Look at this. A barrel full of apples. This is what this store very well may have looked like back in the 1800s. Whiskey. Here is a barrel of whitefish. Look at that. And the tables. Oh, this is really something. Okay, so here's this other building, the quartermaster department. Rice, potatoes, salt, mess pork. So we're looking for skilled labor for these trades. Rifle muskets, 50 caliber. Wow. Colt 44 revolver from 1860. Mortar. Look at these solid shots for those cannonballs. For those cannons, these are the cannonballs. Here is what was once an old mine shaft.
Full of water.
It's filled with water now.
I wonder how deep it went.
This looks like another old mine shaft from 1844. They have at least 3 that I've seen, old copper mines that have tours. I think we might do one. Here's another one. Wow. Copper was a big thing here. You know, Fred and I, we toured a copper town in Jerome, Arizona. My son Mitchell went with us on that trip before I started with these YouTube videos. If you come to this area, don't stay where we're staying now. Stay here at this Fort Wilkins campground. I see people riding their bikes all around the fort. So, you know, if you stayed at the campground here at the fort, you could really spend a lot of time over there in those buildings and explore them in a little bit greater depth than what we just did. Okay, so this is the campground here at Fort Wilkins. They've got lake access. Yeah, we missed the mark on this campground. These sites here, what numbers are these, Fred, next to the lake? Campsite 7, 8. Look at this, look at the view you get with campsite 7 or 8. 9 also has the waterfront view. So yes, this is a great campground.
10's a good one. Right here.
10, oh, is this number 10? Yeah, that looks like a fantastic spot.
No electric. These must be tents.
There's electric boxes. Yeah, just make sure, and they have water too. Just make sure you get the electric if that's important to you. The campground that we are staying at now in Hancock does have internet. There are no, there's no signal here at the campground at Fort Wilkins. So this is the boat that takes you over to the Isle Royale, which is a national park, and I think it's one of the least visited national parks. The boat ride over to the national park, it's a 3.5 hour boat ride over, a 3.5 hour boat ride back, and then I think you can stay on the island for 2 hours. So we are just touring the town of Copper Harbor. This is the Copper Harbor School, and there is no internet up here at all. But this is a darling little town. Definitely worth visiting. Copper Harbor Welcome Center. And I think we're gonna go have lunch at this restaurant called the Mariner. We heard it was just about the best place in town to eat. Well, one thing, that beer that I've been talking about, the Keweenaw Brewery, is just down the street from where we are staying. in Hancock, these are the beers that they have: the Keweenaw Point, the Red Jacket Amber, Pickaxe Blonde, Widowmaker, Red Bridge. They have a great looking menu here. A lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff on their menu.
This is a nice restaurant on the inside.
It is. So Fred got their fish basket, and I got balsamic steak salad. Okay, so this is the Copper Harbor Overlook on Brock Mountain. There's the boat that takes you over to the national park. I'm gonna go take a look at this old country store. Well, Fred did not come out of that store unscathed, did you, baby?
No.
That was a great store. They had some really beautiful pottery in there. So this is Memorial Day weekend, and we are back at our campground now. And I will say that this is the most crowded campground we have ever stayed at. I've never seen such a crowded campground. There are so many kids here running up and down the street. This campground is just crowded. I think every spot has company. I would think that not every weekend is like that here, and I'm sure that during the week this campground is pretty nice and quiet. It is beautiful. We have a beautiful spot. When we were up at Fort Wilkins State Campground, it did not seem to be this crowded. I'm not sure why it's like that here. These are all the guest spots. And then about every camp spot has 2 or 3 cars parked there. Let's see, 54 probably down here, but 55 certainly. These are beautiful sites, and they're out of all that dense congestion that we're in up there. And there's electric. I didn't think that these had electric. These advertised, I thought, with no electric. It's much better down in this area. This is 53. Oh yeah, 54. Great spot. Look, high cliffs all around it. Oh, excellent. So this spot, 52, it's good, but it backs up into this boat dock parking lot. Look, there's some other spots up there that back right up into the parking lot, but it's still much better down here. You can see this place is party central. Every spot has a party at it. We've never seen so many cornhole games in one location. Everybody's here is playing cornhole. There must be some kind of a big cornhole tournament. This is spot 48 right here. That's a very good private spot. Nobody around them. So there are some great spots here. We just unfortunately don't have one.
Really?
I didn't see any videos like this showing us the good spots, so now you have it. I think that the big draw to this campsite is likely this beach area. It's a very nice place to swim down there. So in Calumet, very close to the Quincy mines, which we're about to take a tour, they have this mining museum. It's Sunday morning. I doubt they're open, but we'll see. Oh, they're closed. That's probably a pretty neat thing to do if you're here. This town, Calumet, is a beautiful, very old town. The downtown area, the buildings all look very old. Here is some kind of a coliseum, and it says ice skating. Probably closed. It is. Center Ice Skate and Sport. So we are at Quincy Mine Tours, and they do have a nice little gift shop in here. This tour is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. This should be quite interesting. So the Quincy mine was in operation for 100 years. It had the longest incline shaft in the world of a little over 9,000 feet. To this day, the building behind me holds the steam-powered hoist that you can see in these pictures. It's the largest steam-powered hoist in the world to this day. But of course, they don't use the steam-powered hoists any longer. But it was the largest one ever built in the entire world. So in 1865, they installed a man engine. So they didn't need to climb the ladders. The man engine was used for 30 years. And one misstep, and you could fall the entire length of the shaft. They only had candles attached to their hard hats to light their way. So in 1913, the workers went on strike, primarily due to the implementation and invention of this pneumatic jack. The workers' wages were reduced, skilled workers were no longer required, and the working conditions were quite a bit more dangerous using these pneumatic jacks. There was a 33% serious casualty rate for the workers. 900 million pounds of copper was pulled from the Quincy mine. At the height, this mine employed 2,000 men. The conditions here were extremely hard and very dangerous. So I learned that the pasty is famous here in the UP because the miners' wives would make these handheld pockets of goodness with the rutabaga and the different meats and the potatoes, and make that for their husbands for their lunch while they were in these mines. And the miners would just stick these pasties in their pockets, and they would stay warm because they were so thick. So that's where the pasty comes from. This is kind of like what it must have been to have been a mine worker way back when. The seats are all tilted back, so when you're going down, it makes them seem level. It is wet and cold back here. It was very difficult to do recording on the inside of that tour, so I had to resort to taking a lot of pictures. But they said that all of the buildings around here were open to visit. I couldn't believe how cold it was down there in the mine. He said it was a pretty constant temperature of 42, but it was breezy and it was wet. I've never been in a mine like this before, and he turned the lights out, kept them out for quite a few minutes, and your eyes adjusted to the darkness. And then when he lit the candle on his hard hat, the whole room was illuminated just from the little candle. This was a fantastic tour. I highly recommend it. You really get the feeling of what it was like to have been a miner in the early 1900s, the late 1800s. I just really didn't think that I would enjoy this tour as much as I did. It's absolutely fascinating to get a glimpse into the life of these miners. And when we were down there, he actually held that pickaxe to the wall and he hit it with the sledgehammer like 5 or 6 times. And that's what these guys did 10 hours a day before the invention of the pneumatic drill. So the sign says Miner's House. Wow. Oh my goodness. These stairs, this house, this whole, it is very old. Look at these old steam-powered trains back here. Here's one of the rail cars. It looks like it's turned upside down. Look at these old rail cars. They're completely dilapidated. You can tell those were the original ones that were actually used. You know, they're coming out of the broiler house. Those could have been used for coal to make the steam. They were wooden. I bet that those were the coal cars, because the copper was so heavy. I don't know that it would have been made out of wooden carts. Here's this broiler house. Had to make a lot of steam. So this is us sitting here waiting for Fred to get done with his tour. Lily, do you see Poppy anywhere? Where's your Poppy? There's Fred. He's the last one. So after our mine tour today, we're going to go check out the Keweenaw Brewery. So we're trying 5 different kinds of the Keweenaw Brewing Company's beer. A flight of beer here is $5.50, and they are all delicious. Thank you so much for watching. We are wrapping it up here at City of Hancock Campground in the central part of the Upper Peninsula, and we are now headed to the western part of the Upper Peninsula to Porcupine Mountains. So please be sure you subscribe so you can get notified of our next video. Thanks again. Bye-bye.